Larry Sharpe is the Outreach Director for American Values 2024, and he brings a fresh perspective, which could very well be the growing sentiment of many Americans regarding the announcement by RFK Jr. in relation to his plans to work alongside President Trump and his administration. Larry Sharpe, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here.
I'm happy that I'm here and I'm talking again. I'm here in the White House trying to get things ready for the changeover.
Well, we're very excited for the changeover, let me tell you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Your perspective on this situation that RFK Jr. has announced, this sort of unity with with Trump specifically. I don't think it's unity with the Republican Party per se. I, for one, am glad about that in some ways. But let's start with his speech, because really it was a historic speech, one of the best I've heard, certainly in recent times. What do you make of this? Is it going to change the future of politics?
The key piece here is America has been trying to get out of this two-party establishment system, right? I really wish the two parties were very different. In rhetoric, they are, right? Yelling at each other, they're very different. But sadly, America has been about 25 years of solid decay. Whether it's Bush getting us Obama, Obama getting us Trump, Trump getting us Biden, we constantly have issues going back and forth where we keep having decay. And when you have someone who is more rebellious, even try to get in, the deep state is very much entrenched, right? Permanent Washington will try to slow anybody down and attack. And I think you saw this with Bobby Kennedy Jr. trying to run in the first place. The DNC went out of its way. They put over $1 billion into getting rid of him, throwing him off the ballot in different states, assassinating his character.
Is that right? Over $1 billion, or is that just
$1 billion?
Wow.
No, that's real. There is a PAC called the Clear Choice PAC, which I lovingly call the CCP. The Clear Choice PAC, the CCP, and the DNC together have put together $1 billion. Do your own homework on that. It's accurate.
Wow.
To get him off the ballot, to destroy his character, all of those things. And sadly, it was working. RFK Jr. actually sued Biden in court and won. The Biden administration has been trying to, through social media, just literally censor him. So he's being censored. He's being kept out of debates. He's being kept out of the media. All of those things have happened. And at one point, he's like, what can I do? I want to make impact. I want to make something happen. Well, here comes Donald Trump. And Donald Trump reached out to him after the attempt on his life. After the attempt on his life, all of a sudden now, Trump's like, wait a minute. I got to start rethinking some things here. And when that happened, all of a sudden now he's reaching out. What can we do? How can we fix this? What's my legacy going to be? And when that all came together, now all of a sudden you have this type of the situation to where we can both make impact and still keep an independent movement going. And that speech you talked about, the critical aspect on that speech was it wasn't other guy bad. And that is what Democrat, Republican in the United States is always. What are you going to do for me? It doesn't matter the other guy's worse. Wait a minute, but what are you going to do for me? Doesn't matter. I know I killed a guy, but he killed 3 guys. So obviously, don't vote for the mass murderer, just vote for the murderer. That's how they're doing it. And what Bobby's talked about was things like fixing the family will fix the nation. Fix the health will fix the individual, right? Fix things in the country. Talk about things that matter. And all of a sudden people went, oh, yeah, that's way more important than saying Trump is bad or whatever is the story of the day. This actually matters. And I feel like he focused it on things, not the periphery. He focused on the actual issues that matter in America, and people heard him.
Well, can I say, Larry, a lot of people who are, normally Trump supporters, but were a little bit hesitant because of some concerns that they had, they feel like RFK Jr. really was the missing link in terms of their support for Donald Trump. So
Yes.
I want to ask
Trump can be harsh. He can be harsh. There's no doubt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people, I live in New York City, and the amount of people who, and you may laugh when I say this, but it's absolutely true, who would say things like, Trump's not bad, but man, I wish he stopped tweeting. They would say things like that. Like that mattered to them. I was like,
wow.
Tweeting matters? And they're like, yes, I don't like it. And politics is emotional. It just is. I know it drives some people crazy. Me too. I care about policies. But the average person on the street, they don't like him tweeting. They don't. So I think your point is right on the money. When all of a sudden, here comes RFK Jr., who does present empathy very well. Like that's one of his skill sets.
He does.
And Trump presents,
which I think is genuine, by the way. I just want to say, I think it's genuine. Yeah.
Agreed. Trump presents strength well, but he doesn't always present empathy well at all. Now, all of a sudden, here comes RFK Jr., who presents empathy well, and people go, oh, okay, maybe those tweets aren't so bad after all.
Yeah.
And I know it seems silly, but I think it's true.
It's amazing, when you're someone that completely removes emotions out of politics and you're just really, someone that focuses on policy and results. When you hear things like this, it kind of boggles the mind. But you're right, in the sense that this does matter to a lot of people. And when I say the missing link, I'm even talking about, the phone call that was disastrously leaked, we're told, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying he's going to look into the poisoning of the environment through what's happening in the skies, the rise in autism rates, sickness in the United States. These are things that I think every single candidate would be terrified to talk about, and he's so strong on. And this is for me, at least, the missing link, in terms of the effects of big pharma on the American people.
Well, he's the guy who actually is not afraid of the three-letter agencies.
Right.
And that's the issue, right? Three-letter agencies run our country. I wish they didn't, but they do. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. is the guy who has literally seen them in court, sued them and won, fought them and survived, right? He's done all those things. And look, it's hard for a president to do that because officially they're running them, right? Officially, they're supposed to be working together. And sadly, they're often not. The three-letter agencies go back to what I said earlier. They're the permanent Washington. They stay. Presidents come and go, and these people stay. So they're like, whatever, some president will be here for 4 years. I'm going to be here in 20. I don't really care, whatever. Let's ignore this person and move on. But Bobby Kennedy Jr. knows, no. I'm coming after you now. You're going to do the right thing now. I'm not going to get away with all these things now. That's a key piece. But this is the part of the idea he said, becoming an independent, the independent movement. If you notice, both him and his vice president, Nicole Shanahan, both of them, when in their interviews recently, look almost like they're hurt. They look, because they are. These people were both Democrats. And the Democratic Party that they thought still existed does not, right? I have some gray hair. I remember a Democratic Party that was not like this one today. I remember one that was actually anti-war, that cared about kids. I remember that party back in the 70s. Now, I know I'm a bit older than maybe some people in the audience, but maybe some people are old enough to remember. I mean, the Democratic Party that I think Bobby Kennedy still believed existed is from the 70s, is from the 60s. That party does not exist anymore. It's not today's Democratic Party at all. They were the ones who were against censorship. Yes. They were fighting censorship. Not anymore. That party's gone. So he's hurt. Shanahan used to give money to Democrats thinking this was the right answer. So even Nicole Shanahan, right, as I said, his VP, even she was, wait a minute, I'm a donor. I support you guys. You have to, when I tell you what's right, you have to listen. And they went, no. Democratic Party said, no, we run things. You do as we say. We're a monolith. If you don't do what we say, shut up, you're gone. And so she was hurt too. She thought she could fix her party, and she can't. So she had to go independent. And that was the issue. Now you might say, well, great, they'll just go Republican. Well, that's not always so true. You have to have the right Republican. There are a lot of Republicans who are establishment Republicans who don't want anything to do with the independent party and who hate Trump, by the way. There's lots of establishment Republicans who can't stand Trump. You see them everywhere. The average Republican actually loves Trump, but there are a lot of establishments who don't like him at all.
I'm finding that people, even though they are policy driven, they're also humanity driven. And I find in RFK Jr. and Nicole a real humanity, even in their approach to trying to work with this party that they so believed in. It's a real humane approach. And so, again, this is another one of these missing links that so many people were looking for. But yes. I would love for you to talk about, what RFK actually explained he's doing. He's suspending his campaign and he's not pulling out. What does this mean for the future establishment of an independent party? And what does it mean for the votes? Because now they're trying to stop him from pulling out in certain states. Correct. So talk to us about that.
Yes. If you've been paying attention at all to American politics in the last, say, 20 years or so, it's based upon swing states when it comes to the national vote. It's based upon swing states. About 7 to 10 states are going to decide the election. So most people in most states, their vote will not matter. I live in New York State. my state is going to Harris no matter what I do. And we have winner take all, which means if the state goes blue, Harris gets all the votes. So no matter what I do, my electoral vote is going to Harris. I live in California, it's going to Harris. But if I live in, say, Kentucky, I live in, say, Oklahoma, it's going to Trump. It doesn't matter. So if I live in a state like that, why would I vote for either of them? I should instead vote for Bobby Kennedy Jr., right? Because now that vote has impact. Why? If you live in a swing state, Pennsylvania, Michigan, I get it. You got to vote for who you think is the best. I get where you're going. Probably if you don't like the establishment, you're going to vote for Trump because that will decide the election. But what we're looking for the future is an independent party in America. And if we get 5% of the total vote of the entire country, 5%, regardless of where it comes from, doesn't matter if it all comes from California, a mix or match, irrelevant, 5% allows us to qualify for matching funds, over $20 million in the 2028 election. And some actually comes right away to help pay off debt, to get things started, so we can build out a real independent movement. Why do I want an independent movement? Because I want a place for people to go to talk the talk that Bobby Kennedy talked about. We don't know how long Trump's going to be in the party, how long he's going to be around. We don't know. We need a future, which is 5% to change that. So if you vote in a non-swing state and you vote for Bobby Kennedy Jr., we need about 8 million total votes, give or take, about 8 million. So you vote one, you are a grain of sand on an 8 million grain of sand beach. And your vote in the popular vote will actually count, even though it won't in the electoral vote. All of a sudden now you'll see independents start running. They'll start running locally. And you have a lot of people who would love to run, but they can't because the local establishment is basically a mafia.
Right.
Well, now you have an independent party. You can actually run. It's We the People Party. You can run locally for your mayor, for your whatever, and you can say the things you want to say. Independents rarely win. I know that. I've run as an independent twice. I ran as a libertarian for governor 2 times in New York State, and it's rare that we win. But even when I got 2% of the vote, that impact got 107 local people elected in 2019.
Wow.
That's the kind of impact we can make. Grassroots things to get people moving. That, by the way, is how you change a major party too, right? The major parties don't change until the grassroots force them to change. This assists in that too. That's why that 5% is so critical.
I can actually confirm what you're saying does work in the sense that, just looking at Australian politics, which is where I'm from, we do have some independent parties. Now, of course, it would be great if they all unified, but they don't. But there are some independents or, other options other than the 2-party solution that come in and they really challenge the status quo. And when I said before that RFK is not necessarily aligning with the Republican Party, that's a good thing. I really mean that. People might get upset with me, but I actually mean that because you need something to challenge the status quo. We've seen so many rhinos, so many warmongers in the Republican Party, and RFK Jr. is the total opposite of that, wants to end the wars. I mean, that's what Trump wants too, but we need more people like that. I want to talk to you about that piece.
Yes, and I think that one of the problems that Trump had was to be very forward, he had never done this before, right? Similar, by the way, on an opposite side policy-wise, but a similar system was Obama. When Obama came in, he had never been a governor before. Trump came in and had been a governor before. If you look at how presidents in the last 20 years or so, I'll use Bush and Clinton as an example compared to Obama and Trump. So two Republicans, 2 Democrats. Bush and Clinton were both former governors. When they came into the White House, they were, for their policies, effective in the first 4 years. Obama and Trump weren't. They both struggled their first 4 years. Why? They had to use swamp creatures. They had to use people who were establishment Washington and didn't know any better. Trump had far too many swamp creatures in his first 4 years. Obviously, he's learned his lesson. That's why he's bringing non-swamp creatures in. But he had to. He didn't know any better. He didn't have the connections. He didn't know who was swamp and who wasn't. And he brought them in, and it stifled. He was not as effective as he could have been, right? Obviously. And I think he knows that. That's making the change. So you're correct. There are too many swamp creatures, too many permanent Washington establishment. We've got to have more independent people so that when someone who's more independent-minded comes to power, he or she has the people to come in and to make things happen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I, for one, am grateful that people just have a choice more of a choice than just these two or nothing else. I think that needs to
100%.
drastically change in every single country, because you develop a monopoly, and then
Yes.
you get the infiltrators and the swamp creatures, as you're saying, in each party, and then you end up with the same results: war,
Yep.
problems with the economy. It just never changes. Endless
Because we're
sickness.
basing it on fear. We're not basing it on actually fixing anything, right? So I don't have to. You're a perfect example of this. Last 20 years, the Democrats have owned the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, and so the Republicans, and over the past 20 years, all together. So I would ask you, if you're leaning left, if you're watching leaning left, where's your where's your codification of Roe v. Wade? Where's your Medicare for all? Like, I don't want these things, but if you lean left, you want them, right? And your party had them. Why didn't they change anything? If you lean right, where's your balanced budget amendment? Where's your changing of all the border laws? No, nowhere. No, even though your party has had all four of those institutions, there was no change. If you lean left or right, you're not getting what you want. Why? Because it makes more sense for them to keep fighting over these problems and not solving them. Now, here comes Bobby Kennedy Jr., an independent. He says, no, solve the problem, fix the problem. And he focuses on it. And now people go, yeah, we've got to fix this problem. Why haven't we been talking about, to your exact point, family, health, and children? Why haven't we been talking about this? We've been fighting over the border for 30 years. No one's fixed it. What? What's going on? We've been fighting over this. Don't matter. We fight over culture war things that make no sense. We fight over these things that don't make any sense. When you have an independent voice, that person becomes a referee. Whether they win or not, to be clear, they become a referee. And when the referee is there, now left and right have to actually do what they say.
Yeah, it's like
right.
An accountability voice. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to actually do what you promise.
I'm really enjoying the shakeup in American politics, I have to tell you, Larry, and I know that it has an effect on the whole world. I really do. And
100%.
I'm seeing, some independents in Australia who are really becoming a thorn in the side. This is just an example of what can happen in the West. Following this model, independents that are becoming a real thorn in the side of the establishment parties, and it's forcing people to think for themselves. It's forcing people to ask harder questions, and this is really, I think, what we need worldwide. So I'm grateful for it. I'm enjoying the shakeup. Larry, please let people know where they can follow you, and I think we'll definitely need to speak again.
I would love that, of course. I am the outreach director for American Values 2024. You can go to av24.org. If you want to follow me, please follow me on all the socials. Larry Sharpe. I'm on everything, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Getter, you name it, I'm there. Larry Sharpe. Just Google me, you'll find me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Larry. We appreciate it.
Have a great day.